Welcome back to another Zero Context Patreon Stark advertising my Patreon content one out of context theater moment at a time. I know that I got a late start this month, but nevertheless, I persisted. Anyway, I made good progress with Heroes of the Dustbin, which is the last book of the Janitors series. General Clean should be here any moment. General, Marv snorted, Road nodded. That's what the witches are calling him. Listen, strange woman lying in an elementary school drinking fountains distributing titles is no basis for a system of military. Against the adversity, Margaret succeeded in taping off the drinking fountain, covering it with a black garbage bag. An out-of-order sign scribbled in the janitor's awful handwriting was tacked onto the top. Those were simple precautions aimed at keeping curious students away, as if the horrid sulfuric smell wafting from the source wouldn't do that. I would ask why the school didn't start putting pressure on the district to get that fixed after 6 weeks, but then I remembered that this is a public school. Teachers often have to go without light bulbs because the district is too freaking stingy to pony up so that kids can do lessons with the freaking lights on. What makes me think that they're going to look into why the drinking fountain is stinky and broken? V starts off by asking where everybody else is, so they have to explain to her that this is pretty much it. All of the rebels are being picked off one by one. He does mention Min and their band of rebel students, however, I feel like it would be remiss to discount anybody else simply because they are students. After all, beggars can't be choosers. The narration spends so much time going over the plan. I wish that it was like in the movies where the voiceover explains what the plan is while we actually see them doing it. Instead, there's this nonsense, which I feel is nothing but wasting time. On the elevator down to the first level, there are too many sweepers to the point where Spencer and Daisy won't be able to sneak down with them. Dust has a singular moment of intelligence and shoves one sweeper out of the way, claiming that she's standing in his personal space. It's not much, and Spencer and Daisy have to practically shove their noses up against Dust, but it gets them down to the next level. Where did you come by these? Helga asked, pinching her nail between thumb and finger. I used to be with the rebels, Des said. I'd sold the nails from a guy named Alan Zimbro. Spencer didn't like how Des had incriminated his dad, but at least he hadn't blabbed about their connection with the Dark Arons. What exactly did you expect for Des to say? Claiming that he stole them from Alan is as good of an excuse as any. The kids continued to watch, unexpecting anything to happen. Then, with horror, they instead pulled their magic wands out from the glove. Des tricked them, again, to the surprise of completely nobody. But we didn't want to take possession of a few struggling British colonies, Ninfa cut in. During our time, America was not the world power that it is today. It's easy to say nonsense like this in the 21st century, but back in the 1700s, there's literally no way to know what USA might morph into, or that it wouldn't crumble after a few years. They could have taken over the UK, which was already well established and full of school children. Hey, random aside, but are the Arons Interview with the Vampire Immortals or Twilight Immortals? Do they still have the emotional range as when they were turned immortal, or are they mature beyond belief? Daisy cheerfully asks how Bingo was. Marv says good, that he won some 1960s toilet cleaner. It was used to attract toxites into the toilet where it would be like shooting fish in a barrel. None of them know why this stuff isn't still being made today. In the house, Daisy pulls out things from the bin under the sink. She determines that bookworm's straw was surgically removed, likely by Bernie, since the house was surrounded by BE members and bookworm would have actually died protecting Bernie and Mr. and Mrs. Gates. Though the top part of his head must be stashed somewhere safe. She determines this from 12 blue M&Ms. She also finds an address written on a scrap of cereal box, and also Bernie's keychain. The three of them join the fray. I'm not freaking reading about the fighting. They fight, and that's the only thing that you need to know. Obviously, we skip ahead to them finding where the bridge connects to, I'm guessing, the mainland of Florida. Rose stayed behind to watch the bubbles. They locate the first security bubble on the underside of the bridge, and Marv shoots it to turn it into glass. Rose says that it won't stand up to scrutiny, but the image isn't playing anymore, so they're good. Clean challenges Alan to a duel, basically to prove that Clean could unalive Alan, and that Alan would be unable to unalive Clean. In the end, there's a lot of posturing from Clean before Alan slices his arm off. It's honestly kind of dark, considering that the target audience is in that 8 to 14 age range. However, Alan refuses to unalive him. Right as Daisy finds the lunchbox head, a grime sits its tongue into the dumpster Daisy is in. Spencer rescues her with a mop, but the action makes Daisy drop the lunchbox. The dumpster was grabbed and tossed out into the ocean. However, as the kids flee the scene, since the grime isn't done tossing dumpsters overboard, they notice that the lunchbox is stuck between the teeth of the grime, so now they're going to have to play dentist. Your mom and siblings are with my parents. Where? Fast asleep inside, Daisy said. They're not used to this kind of action. I'm kind of hung up over how Spencer's younger siblings were dragged into this. I'm not sure of how many and of their ages, but I know that the youngest is 4. The BEM dragged a literal preschooler into a war. If you like my content, you can become a member on Patreon. Now you can join for free and get access to all of my free stuff. For only $1 a month, you can have access to so much, including the context for all of this month's commentary and more. I'll see you next month, guys!